animal tissue. So, I hope you have completed that reading part at your home. So, today I will start with the next another new chapter, chapter 8, the cell, the unit of life. So, what is the name of the chapter? The name of the chapter is chapter number 8, which is cell, the unit of life. So, with the heading of this chapter, you can understand that in this chapter we will discuss about the cell and different type of structure, different features and different type of cell organelles in this chapter. So, before starting this chapter, I will ask you, what is cell? All of you have read their cell from the junior classes. So, what is cell? Tell me, what is cell? Those who are following the class, just try to answer what is cell. Functional unit of life. Okay, Dia has written functional unit of life. Dia, is it only functional unit of life or something else? Structural unit, yes. So, it is the structural and functional unit of life. So, it's right there that cell is the structural and functional unit of life. So, here it is written also that the heading of the chapter, the unit of life. What kind of unit? Now, we know that unit is both structural and functional. Structural and functional. Why it is called as? Yes, Oishiki has written cell is the structure. Yes, Oishiki, you are also right. That the unit of life, yes, cell is the unit of life. What kind of unit? It's structural and functional. That means our body is made up of cell. Any living body is made up of cell. Not only it determines the structure, it also determines the functions of a cell. Okay. So, now we will see the discovery of cell. So, who first discovered the cell and how? So, first that time microscope has been developed, and you know that cell is a microscopic structure, and with the help of that microscope cell can be observed. So, first a scientist, Robert Hooke, in the year of 1665 first discovered cell. How? Because from a thin slice of a cork, he has found a honeycomb like structure. He has found this type of honeycomb like structure, and from the slice of a cork, and he discovered cell. So, as it is made up of bark of a plant, so you can say that it is non-living part. Okay, and it is a part of plant cell. That's why he found the cell wall there. Okay, he found the cell wall there, and it is that means Robert Hooke found he has found that cell, but the cell was non-living. Okay, so Robert Hooke first discovered cell, but the cell was in non-living form. Now, if I say that about the living cell, who has discovered the living cell? Scientist Leeuwenhoek, Anton von Leeuwenhoek. What is the full form of Leeuwenhoek? Name of the scientist is Anton von Leeuwenhoek. L-E-E-U-W. Sorry ma'am, I don't have bio. Okay Pritish, then you can leave the group. No issues. So, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, L-E-E-U-W-E-N, L-E-E-U-W-E-N-H-O-E-K, Leeuwenhoek. Anton von Leeuwenhoek has discovered or has examined also cell, and the cell was in living. Okay, so Anton von Leeuwenhoek first described live cell. Okay, so that's how cell has been discovered, and after that what happens, the different discovery of different cell organelle was there, and a cell theory was proposed by some scientists. So, before starting with the cell theory, I will talk about the name of the another scientist who has discovered different main organs, like Robert Brown. Robert Brown has discovered the nucleus. Cell, the nucleus is, we can call it the brain of the cell. So, Robert Brown has discovered the nucleus part, and the scientist Purkinje has discovered the protoplasm part. Like that, many scientists has discovered different cell parts, cell organelles. Now, I will talk about the cell theory. So, what is cell theory and who has discovered cell theory? So, whenever we will talk about the cell theory, we have to know the name of the two scientists first. They are Sheldon and Swan. In the year 1838, Matthias Sheldon, full form of Sheldon is Matthias Sheldon, in the year of 1838, who was a German botanist. Okay, you have to remember the designation of these scientists, these are also important. So, a German botanist in the year of 1838, whose name was Matthias Sheldon, examined a large number of plants and different kinds of cells which are formed by different type of plant tissues. Okay, so Sheldon was a botanist. So, as you know that the botanist means the study of the plant, and zoologist means those who are studying about the animals. So, as he was a botanist, then obviously he will examine the different type of plants. So, with the examination of different types of plants, Sheldon started the different type of examination. After that, what happens? Another scientist, Theodore Swan, in the year of, and Sheldon examined in the year of 1838, and in the year of 1839, another scientist Swan, who was a British zoologist. Sheldon was German botanist, but Swan was British zoologist. Okay. So, he examined the different type of animals and the cells of their layers. Okay. And he also observed a thin layer around the cell, which is now called as plasma membrane. After that, after the various examination, that Swan proposed the hypothesis that the cells of the body of the animals and plants are composed of cells and the products of cells. So, this line is important, that the animals and plants, that the body plan or the The bodies of the animals and plants are made up of cells and their products. Okay. Swan has observed this and concluded this. After that, Sheldon and Swan formulated that cell theory. Sheldon and Swan formulated that cell theory. But in that cell theory, they did not explain that how new cells were formed. They explained the cell theory, but in that cell theory this was not explained that how cell theory has been formed. Okay. So, then after that, in the year of 1855, another scientist whose name is Rudolf Virchow, in the year of 1839, 55, in the year of 1855, another scientist Rudolf Virchow has explained that how new cells are formed or how cell division occurring from the pre-existing cells. The name of the scientist is Rudolf Virchow, and he used another term, that is omnis celluli cellula. Rudolf Virchow used that term omnis celluli cellula. Okay. That means that all the cells arises from the pre-existing cells. The meaning of this term is all the cells arises from the pre-existing cells, and he modified the cell theory of Sheldon and Swan and concluded a new cell theory which says that all the living organisms are made up of cells and products of cells. What he has concluded, that all the living organisms are made up of cells and the products of cells. Okay, first conclusion was there that all the living cells are made up of cells or the product of cells, and second conclusion was there, that was that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. All cells arise from pre-existing cells. So, you have to remember these two main postulates described by Rudolf Virchow, and this is the recent cell theory. Okay. So, that is all about different discovery of cell. Now, we will talk about we will get an idea or overview idea of the cell. So, cells, as you know, that structural and functional unit, and in the cell different type of cell organelles are present. In that different cell organelles are performing different type of functions. Okay. And in the eukaryotes, mainly three types of cells can be found: undifferentiated cell, differentiated cells, dedifferentiated cells. So, what are they? Undifferentiated cells, differentiated cells and dedifferentiated cells. So, what is the meaning of these three types? So, first one is undifferentiated cells. Undifferentiated cells means that these are the stem cells, and these type of cells can undergo division. They have the power or property of power of division. Okay. So, the undifferentiated cells have the power of division. These are the mainly stem cells. These cells can form any type of cells. Okay, like meristematic cells. As you know that meristematic cells have the ability to divide, and the zygote. Okay, these are the examples of undifferentiated cells. Next one is differentiated cells. Differentiated cells means post mitotic cells. Differentiated cells mean post mitotic cells. So, after mitosis, the undifferentiated cell will differentiate and they will form a permanent structure, and usually the differentiated cells are not having the power of division. Okay. So, in case of permanent tissue, we will find that differentiated cells. What is the meaning of dedifferentiated cells? The meaning of dedifferentiated cells means that the cells usually lost the power of division, but they can regain their power of division by any circumstances or any special cases. So, those cells which are usually lost their power of division, but in some special cases they can regain their power of division. This type of cell is called as dedifferentiated cell. What are the example? When we need any type of regeneration or any wound healing, so that in that region we can get that different type of cells. So, in eukaryotic we can get this type of cells. I am teaching the cell, the unit of life, which is page number 125. It starts from page number 125. Each and every details whatever I will tell, you will not get from your book, because some of the details are not in your book, but it is necessary for your understanding part. In your exam, questions will be asked from your book, but I will explain some parts in detail which is not in your book. Okay, so you have to listen carefully. You may note it down also. Okay, it will help you. Okay, explain that. Okay, dedifferentiated means, like imagine that a permanent tissue. I have explained that permanent tissue has lost the power of division, but in some circumstances some permanent tissue can regain the power of division. Okay, means the cells which usually lost the power of division, but in some special cases they can regain the power of division, and then they can divide. Okay, so in case of wounds, in case of regeneration, this type of dedifferentiated cells are acting. Clear? Okay, so now I was talking about cell organelles. So, in the cell, different type of cell organelles are present. In them, some are membrane bound cell organelles. Membrane may be unit membrane or double membrane, but in some the membranes are not present. So, in case of the cells can be divided into two: prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. So, as you know that pro means primitive and eu means advanced. So, in the presence or absence of nuclear membrane, we can differentiate cells that into two, that is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. That means prokaryotic cells came earlier, and after that eukaryotic or advanced cells have came. Okay. So, I was talking about the cell organelles. So, in that prokaryotic and eukaryotic, they are having many differences. So, first one is that membrane bound nucleus is absent in case of prokaryotes, but membrane bound nucleus is present in eukaryotes. Okay. So, in prokaryotes, what this structure, that nucleus is called as nucleoid. And another property is that in the prokaryotes, that they are not having that membrane bound cell organelles also, which is present in case of eukaryotes, as they are advanced form. What are we? Are we prokaryotes or eukaryotes? Tell me the answer. You are a prokaryote or eukaryote? Yes, Diya and Abhinava both are right, we are eukaryotes. So, as we are advanced. Now, in eukaryote, yes Oisiki, you are also right. So, in that prokaryotes, they are not having membrane bound cell organelles, like membrane bound cell organelles means ribosome, Golgi bodies, lysosome, mitochondria, microbodies, okay, but as they are prokaryotes are lacking the membrane bound cell organelle, they will only have ribosomes. Okay, because My ribosomes are non-membrane bound cell organelle. So that is the exception. So you have to remember that one, that ribosomes are non-membrane bound organelles that can be found all type of cells. Okay. But their type of ribosome is quite different in both the cases, in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay. Now I will write it down, the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Before that I will talk about the cell size, cell shape and cell size. So I will talk about the cell shape and cell size. So first, if I consider the smallest cell, then it is mycoplasma. Mycoplasma is the smallest cell. So what is the smallest cell? Mycoplasma, and it is a prokaryote. Mycoplasma is the smallest cell. Mycoplasma was the smallest cell and its length is near about 0.3 micrometer. It's only about 0.3 micrometer length. Okay. But in the bacteria is also small in size, but the size of the bacteria is near about 3 to 5 micrometer. So just imagine and compare. We are always saying that bacteria are very small, but their size is 3 to 5 micrometer. But the mycoplasma, in case of mycoplasma, their size is 0.3 micrometer. Okay. Now if I consider the largest cell is the egg of ostrich. So largest cell is the egg of ostrich. It is the largest cell. Now if I consider the longest cell, so which one is the longest cell? The neuron or nerve cell is the longest cell. Okay. So what is the longest cell? Nerve cell. Like that we will get different type of cells and different type of shapes also. Cell may be elongated, cell may be, you can see the see at your book at page number 1 to 7, that you can see the diagrams are over there and they are different shapes, they are showing the different shapes of different type of cells. Look at the first one, that is RBC. It is a round and biconcave shape. Next one, white blood cell, they are not have, they are amoeboid type of structure. Okay. So cells may be disc-like, it may be polygonal, it may be columnar, it may be cuboidal, it may be thread-like, it may be irregular. So they can, the shape of the cells can vary in various ways. Okay. 1 minute. So that is the different shape and size of the cell. Now if I consider the prokaryotic cell, so in case of prokaryotic cell, what are the examples of prokaryotic cells? The bacteria. Okay, the bacteria are the examples of prokaryotic cells. Blue green algae, mycoplasma and PPLO. Another new term you have got, that is PPLO. That is a prokaryote. What is the full form of PPLO? Pleuropneumonia-like organism. Pleuropneumonia-like organism is the full form of PPLO. Okay. So these are the example and of prokaryotic cells, and as you know that they can vary in great shape and size. As if you consider the bacteria, the shape of the bacteria may be, I have mentioned all those before in the Monera group, that bacteria may be rod shaped, bacteria may be comma shaped, bacteria may be spiral shaped, bacteria may be round shaped. So according to their shape we are giving them different names. Okay. PPLO, pleuropneumonia-like organism. Pleuro, P-L-E-U-R-O, pleuropneumonia, P-N-E-U-M-O-N-I-A, pleuropneumonia-like organism. So the shape of the bacteria, it is a rod shape. So, if I consider the example of rod shaped prokaryote bacteria, that is Bacillus. If it is called as Vibrio or comma shape, the example is Vibrio cholerae. It is a cocci or oval or round shape. Okay. It is a spiral shape. Example is Spirillum. We can example of coccus is Streptococcus. There are different types of bacteria with different type of shapes, and according to their shapes we are giving them different types of names. Okay. So, in the prokaryotes we have told that they are not having that particular membrane bound nucleus, and their nucleus is called as nucleoid. Okay. And they are having cell wall. So, what are the main properties of prokaryotes? They are having different type of shape and size. They can withstand different type of temperature. They can vary. They are not having membrane bound cell organelle and membrane bound nucleus, and their nucleus is called as nucleoid. Okay. And their genetic material is DNA. That DNA is usually circular. Okay, their genetic material is DNA, but DNA is usually circular, or sometimes it may be single chromosome or circular DNA, but except that genomic part, in case of prokaryotes they are having an extra chromosomal circular DNA which is called as plasmid. So, here we have got another new term, that is plasmid. It is an extra chromosomal circular DNA. They are having their chromosome, and beside that chromosome they are having an extra structure which is called as plasmid. Okay. And these are the similar to the smaller than DNA. Okay. These plasmids are usually smaller than DNA, and these plasmids are having some important features, and you will read that about the plasmid in the class 12. Okay. So, in the plasmid they are having some properties like antibiotic resistant part may be present in case of plasmid. In plasmid different types of antibiotic resistant property can be found. Okay. So, these are the main unique features in case of prokaryotes. So, in case of prokaryotes they are cell envelope and it is having some modification. So, I will talk about that. So, before that, if I want to differentiate between the prokaryotic, okay, no, not like that, let me tell you that part only, that cell envelope and its modification. Okay. So, as I have mentioned that we are talking about prokaryotes, they can be considered as gram positive and gram negative. We can call it gram positive bacteria or gram negative bacteria. Okay. That means prokaryotic cells, before that let me tell you one thing, one term, that is glycocalyx. Glycocalyx. Okay. Glycocalyx is the outermost covering which is found beside the cell wall. So, if we consider the outer covering of the prokaryotes, then we will get glycocalyx, after that cell wall, and the third one is plasma membrane. So, if we consider the covering or cell envelope of bacteria, first we will get glycocalyx, then we will get cell wall, and after that we will get cell membrane. Okay. These three structures are present at the outer envelope of prokaryotes. Okay. So, next part is that gram positive and gram negative bacteria. This is the differentiated according to the composition of their cell wall. So, gram positive and gram negative bacteria can be differentiated by gram staining. A scientist who discovered this, and according to this whose name, this name of the staining has been given. Okay. So, scientist first has given the crystal violet, after that he has given some iodine, then a complex has been formed which is called CVI complex or crystal violet iodine complex, and after that he has washed the cell and with alcohol, and then again restain, counter stain with saptanin. So, some of the bacteria got a violet color and some of the doesn't. Those who gain the violet color are gram-positive bacteria, and those who doesn't are gram-negative bacteria. Okay, that means those who are gaining that staining are called as gram-positive, and those who are not are called gram-negative. So, why gram-positive bacteria are gaining that violet color? Because of the presence of composition which is a peptidoglycan. In their outer wall, peptidoglycan layer is present, which is quite thick. That's why they are gaining that staining and showing violet color. But in case of cell wall, their peptidoglycan layer is very thin. That's why they are not gaining the stain. Okay, so according to that, the composition of their outer membrane or cell wall, we can differentiate these two, gram positive bacteria or gram negative bacteria. Okay. So, now if I consider the composition of glycocalyx, the composition of glycocalyx of different types, it may be thin slimy like of appearance. Okay. Then it is a loose sheath. If it is a loose sheath, it is called a slime layer, or if it is a thick covering, thick and tough covering, it is called as capsule. So, slime layer and capsule. If it is a thin loose covering, it is called slime layer, and if it is thick covering, then it is called as capsule. Okay. So, these are the different structural modification found in case of prokaryotes, and if they are having some infoldings which is called as mesosomes. And what is the function of mesosome? It is increasing the surface area, and these type of extensions can be formed in the form of vesicles, tubules or lamellae, and which is helping in DNA replication, distribution to the daughter cell, cell wall formation and secretion processes. So, these are the different functions of these. Okay, so these type of protoplasmic extensions can be found, and another three term you have to know: flagella, pili, fimbriae. So, what is flagella, pili, fimbriae? If I draw a diagram of a bacteria, you can see that a protoplasmic extension is there, which is called as flagella, and a small bristles like extensions are there, which is called as fimbriae, and inside that fimbriae, this type of structure is called as pili. Okay, so this is pili, this is fimbriae, and this is flagella. So, what is the function of flagella? In the structure of the flagella, at the base, the some part is inserted into the cell membrane. This is called as basal body, and after that a hook like structure is present, and after that these extensions can be found. So, that part is called filament, that part is called hook, and that part is called as basal body. So, a flagella is having mainly these three parts, and it is helping in, or it is providing the motility of the bacteria. So, flagella helps the bacteria to move. That means those who are having flagella, they will be motile, those who are not having, they will be non-motile. Okay. So, with that there are some other structures. You can see these type of extensions are called as pili, and the elongated tube like structures with some special protein which is called as pilin protein, and another small bristles like part which is called as fimbriae, which are helping them in attachment with the any substrate. Okay, any substrates or also with the host tissue. So, this is all about the cell membrane of the different prokaryotes. So, we have completed the 8.4.1 part of up to page number, upper portion of page number 129. So, read up to this part. In my next class, I will talk about ribosome and inclusion body and eukaryotes. So, up to that portion, you have understood? Okay, so read up to that part. In my next class, I will ask a question from this part. Okay, thank you.